All right, so the triangles you make are going to have to fit in your day 2. If you were to look at day 2, helps if I'm looking at unit 3. So if you look at day 2, they need to nicely fit inside these boxes. So if you do the whole piece of paper, they're not going to fit very well. Make them a little bit smaller. And again, make them all different sizes. Nothing has to be exact. You don't have to make a perfect right triangle if you're trying to make a right triangle. We're not actually going to measure anything, so you can just eyeball things. If you want to make a right triangle, just kind of eyeball it. That's what I'm going to do right now. Just going to kind of eyeball it. An obtuse triangle is nice. Oh, let's see. Maybe I'll make the last one kind of equilaterally-ish. I'll eyeball it equilateral. All right, so there's my triangles. Now we'll work on yours.
What is the correct obtuse right?
I did an obtuse, I did a right, I did kind of an equiangular and an acute. But you can do whatever, as long as they're different. Because we want to see that today's activity, we want to see does it work for all kinds of triangles. Oh, are you cutting them out already? I haven't said to cut them out yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. All right, so now, if you have your triangles drawn, now what we're going to do is we're going to label them, okay? One triangle, we're going to label, let me use a different marker. I need to use a marker so it shows up on the papers. One, we're going to label ABC, and when we label it, listen here because this is important. When we label it, I want to label it in the corner so that when I have it rotated to where the corner is pointing at me, I'm going to label it inside the triangle where the letter is facing me. Does that make sense? Like on that A right there. And then I'm going to rotate the triangle so the next corner is facing me. And I'm going to put the B, and you'll see why we're doing this when we get into the activity. And then I'm going to rotate it so the last one's facing me. C. I'm going to skip a letter, so don't do A, B, C, D. Don't just start going. Let me give you what I want. A, B, C, and then another triangle is going to be D, E, F. And then I'm going to do G, H, J. G, H. And the reason I'm not going to I is because when we rotate our triangle, if I have an H and an I, then when I rotate my triangle on my H and my I, I'm going to get them confused. Right? So that's why I don't like to put an H and an I in the same triangle. So I'm going to skip I, and I'm going to go G, H, J, and then K, L, M. Okay, so that's how I'm going to label them. And again, I'm going to label them so that when the corner is facing me, the letter is right side up. So I'm going to put a D, and then I'm going to rotate it to the next corner facing me, and E, and then I'm going to rotate it so the next corner is facing me, and an F. And then I'm going to do where the corner is facing me, G, H, and J. And then the last one where the corner's facing me, K, L, and M. Now, we can cut them out. When you cut them out, if you'll just leave here's my trash from the last class, if you'll just leave it nice and flat, your trash, when you cut it out, when you crumple it up, it takes extra room in the trash can, and we need to try to make sure all of our scraps don't overflow our trash can today, okay? So when you don't crumple up your paper, just lay it flat. Everybody can put their scraps in one pile on your table. I'll come around a little bit and collect them. Now, notice when I'm cutting them out, some of you who turned in your triangles yesterday, when you cut out, you left a border around them. If it has a border around it and I need to slide it into something to check how big it is, I can't do that, right? So don't leave a border. Do your best to cut in a straight line right on the line without leaving a border. If you leave a border, today's activity is not going to work for you. If you leave a border, today's activity is not going to work.
You come in late? Yeah, I thought they were from yesterday.
Uh-huh. Are we out of scissors over there? Here, you can use mine. I have it up there. Don't leave a border, cut right on the line. If you leave a border, today's activity will not work for you. What you're doing if you're still cutting out, because I want to show you what you're going to do next. If you're still cutting out, pause what you're doing. I'm going to show you what you're going to do next. So quiet, please, so I can tell you what you're going to do next. All right. Next thing you're going to do is you want to take each one of these triangles and you want to copy them into these squares. Now, the easiest way to copy these, paper that's not cardstock can sometimes be hard to trace. So watch this trick that I do. I'm going to place it down and I'm going to put a dot at each one of the corners. And then I'm going to label B, C, and A so that I can remember where my corners were. And then I'm going to use a ruler, and I'm going to connect the dots that I made. And when I do that, I'll have a replica of the original triangle. Easy peasy. You'll do that with all 4. It doesn't matter if you put which one goes in what corner. If you do it alphabetical, that's great. If you like to go against the grain and you don't want to do it alphabetical, that's great too.
Wait, I have a question.
I might have an answer.
So what's the point of drawing it on the paper?
You're going to see why. You're going to see.
I was just confused. I was like, did we draw it?
Yeah. So after you trace it, it should fit right back where it was. Okay? So it should be the same size as the original. Okay? And you'll do that with each one. You can do them alphabetically, or you can go against the grain however you want to do it. It's completely up to you. But make sure you label them also on the paper. Because we're going to do something to our triangles, and then we will no longer have whole triangles. We're going to destroy our triangles. We're going to kill them because it's Halloween.
Kill the trees.
To kill triangles? It's like our own little Halloween here.
I'm pretty sure we're committing murder right now.
Just to triangles.
How do we tell Mr. Garcia? Oh God. I know. What do we do?
I'll go this way for this one.
I just suck. I didn't even like. And then I can turn around.
And last but not least.
Yeah. I was trying to bus, and I just kind of I know this is like she just came out, like I just heard the first time, and I was like, you're freaking enticing me. She gave me a big hug, and I was like,
Alright. So that's what you should have when you're done. I'm going to come around with the bucket. If you want to put your trash in it, you can put your trash in it because we're about to destroy our triangles and we don't want to get our trash confused with our non-trash. Trash. Oh, sorry. Oh, everybody who wasn't targeted got them as they walked in the door.
And then when it fires like trash,
You can't be sure on that.
trash, or you can put your oh, that's fine. Oh, thanks. Anybody else have trash ready to throw away? That's why I didn't want to start.
That's all for trash. All right. If you have more later, you can throw it away later. All right. I'm going to give you about 3 more minutes to finish tracing your triangle. There's your timer. You don't have to put them in alphabetical order unless you just like to be orderly. You can put them in whatever order you want.
Sometimes.
Little under 2 minutes left. You're tracing. About a minute left. All right. So, what we're going to do now is, starting with one triangle at a time, I am going to be working with the angles of my triangle. How many angles does a triangle have? 3. I want to work with just the angles. So I am going to destroy my triangle by tearing off. Don't cut. Don't use scissors. Don't use scissors. Don't cut. Tear. I'm going to tear off just the angles.
But then it's not a triangle, it's just a side.
And so then you're going to be left with your 3 angles and the guts of the triangle. I like to think of them as they're right at the inside, it's the guts of the triangle. What you're going to do is you're going to use a glue stick and you're going to glue down the guts back into the triangle where it came from. I'm just going to take these guts that I tore the corners off of and I'm going to glue it back into the triangle. That's why we traced the original triangle, so we could see what it looked like before we destroyed it. Okay, so now I have 3 angles. I have angle A, I have angle B, and I have angle C. And remember, if you did it the way I told you, if you aim the vertices toward you, your letters should be legible, like they shouldn't be upside down. if you did it the way I told you to do it. If you didn't and your letters are upside down, that's okay. Okay, the reason I like to tear it is because if you cut it and you have 3 clean edges, it's hard to tell which one was the original vertex. Whereas here I can tell the vertex is the one that has the 2 clean edges that come together where I cut with scissors. Okay? What does it mean to be an adjacent angle? Not just touching specific in a specific way. What do adjacent angles do? They share 2 things. A side and a vertex. So what I want you to do is I want you to just place angle A so that it's adjacent to angle B. So I put angle A and angle B adjacent. And then I want you to take angle C and I want you to place it so that it's adjacent to B. And then glue it down. So you're going to take your 3 angles and you're just going to slide them so their vertexes are all touching and they're right next to each other. So you're just going to slide them so that they are all right next to each other. I want you to glue them down in this position. If you get glue on your fingers, the trick to getting rid of the glue is just rub your fingers together. It magically goes away. All new.
No, don't eat it.
Don't eat your glue. I shouldn't have to say that in high school.
Oh, come on.
I shouldn't have to tell you in high school not to eat the glue. A. And then I'm going to put B adjacent to A. And then I'm going to put C adjacent to B. If you don't want to put them in order, if you want to spell a word like cab or back or whatever, you can put them in whatever order you want as long as they are adjacent. Huh? I glued that one into the center. The guts that was left over, I glued into the center. So I just glued down A, B, and C. So I glued the guts down after I tore the corners off, and then I glued the corners together adjacently. Okay? I'm going to repeat the process with G, H, J. I'm going to tear off the corners, glue in the guts, put the corners adjacent to each other. I'm going to tear off the corners. I'm going to glue the guts back in. And then I'm going to glue my corners so that they are adjacent. The angles are going to be adjacent angles.
Can you do the same thing for the other? It's like an acronym for just? No. Just going in. Oh. Oh, we're supposed to go with that. I said Ireland. I love you, IRL. I was like, I said there was
to repeat the process a third time with triangle DEF.
Miss, how many times do you have to repeat this assignment so that you can show your other students?
I mean, I have 3 classes this year, so I do it 3 times a day.
3
But in years where I've taught geometry all day, I've done it 6 times a day.
Oh, you ever get tired?
I love geometry. I never get tired of geometry.
I love algebra. I wish I had that mindset.
And this is like artsy crafty. It's fun.
This assignment is very fun. I don't understand people who cutting out their triangles. She says she's majoring in math, and she's on her senior year of math. And she said her math doesn't have any numbers in it at all. No numbers. I know. So whenever she can just do anything for a year, she says, oh, what's going on? I'm like,
I feel like I should have had crafting music. It's going to be a real boring part in the video. If somebody's watching the video at home, I'm sorry. This is boring. And last but not least,
So last time.
we'll do it with KLM. Uh-huh. Glue in the gut. Yeah. As long as the vertexes are together, not the squiggly ends, not the torn ends.
I need to show you. He looks so ugly. All I want is so freaking my baby cousin's I know you are playing. It's my birthday, but you can invite him to cake. I was just stupid. Facts. Honestly, facts. He's into rock music.
Alright, so when you're through, it should look something like that. When you're done, make sure you put the glue stick, the lid, all the way back on until it pops. Make sure it's all the way closed because sometimes they dry out. Some of these are already dry. If you come across a dry glue stick ever, you can throw it away. You have my permission to throw away dry glue sticks. Because if they're dry, they're no good. It has been about 1.5 years since dry glue sticks have been used. Because, you know, they're all from pre-pandemic. I'm going to come around and collect scissors while y'all are finishing up. Yes. Scissors. Oh. All right, listen up. If you're still gluing, kind of listen and glue at the same time. So far we've talked about triangles, that there are two different things that we can measure. What are the two things we can measure on a triangle?
Angles.
Angles and
Sides.
sides, right? We classify by angles, we classify by sides, because we can measure angles, we can measure sides. Today we're going to focus just on the measures of the triangle, okay? When we glued our angles as adjacent angles, is there anything you notice about what happens when I glue them together?
Straight line.
The bottoms form a straight line. Along the bottom of each one, if you glued well, sometimes, you know, some of us are better cutters and gluers than others. Depending on how well you glued, you're going to see a pretty straight line along the bottom.
Why are you so violent, Nadia? What did you ever do?
Ladies. Okay? So again, along the bottom, I did a better job of gluing this one. This one's real straight. Along the bottom here, you can see it creates a line. Along the bottom of this one, we can see it creates a line. And along the bottom of this one, we can see it creates a line. So they're not a linear pair, they're kind of like a linear trio, right? So when we glue them down, we can see that the three angles form one side of a line. The three angles form one side of a line. How many degrees are on one side of a line? 180 degrees. And that's why, if you notice, I had everybody just randomly make triangles. So we all made different triangles. Nobody in here made the same triangles. You might have made similar triangles, but odds are we all made different triangles. Yet, if we all cut out well and we all glued down well, we should all have lines where our triangles come together, because this shows us visually, it's a really good visual way to see that the angles in every triangle really do make up how many degrees? 180 degrees. So my triangle sum theorem states the sum of the angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. And so that was just an activity so that we could really see that really does happen. No matter what kind of triangle you make, you're really going to have 180 degrees when you take those angles and you put them together. Okay? So now, to apply the theorem, a lot of times you'll be given a triangle. I think like the first 4 on your assignment today. You're going to be given a triangle where you'll be given the first 2 values, and it'll say find the third angle. How do I find the third angle? Add the 2 that we know together, right? So 65 plus 57. That's going to be 122. No. Yeah, 122. If I did my math right. So that's how many degrees I've already put in these 2 corners. How do I figure out what's left for the third corner?
122 plus 9.
If I take away the 122 from the 180, no, you're fine. Then what do we get? How much? 58. So this question mark is 58 degrees. Okay? Let's look at the next one. I'm going to do the same process, right? I'm going to take the two angles we know, I'm going to put them together. That's how many degrees I've already used out of the 180. So how many are left for that third angle? 30 degrees. Okay. I only see a 40 in this one. Do I know any other angles?
Yes.
Yeah. What else do I know?
The right angle.
I know the right angle is 90 degrees. So I've used 90 degrees plus I've used 40 degrees. So total I've used 130 degrees. So out of 180 degrees, if I've already used 130, what's left for the question mark? 50. Okay. Same thing here. I've used 85 degrees and I've used 50 degrees. So I've used 135 degrees out of 180 degrees. How much is left for the third angle? How much? 45. So my question mark has a value of 45 degrees. The next one's a little bit different. Here, any ideas what to do first on this one? If I look, there's two triangles there, right? If I look at the one that has the question mark in it, I know that one angle is 86. I know that this angle is the one I'm trying to find. But then this angle over here, all I know is it's part of a 90-degree angle. I don't know how big it is, though, because nothing tells me it's 45 and 45. It doesn't tell me those angles are divided. Yes?
You can add 84 and 36.
Right. So I can look at this bottom triangle, and I can say, well, these two, 84 and 36, if I add those two together, that's 120 degrees for this bottom triangle. So out of 180 degrees, if I've used 120 degrees, there's how much left? 60 degrees. Well, now, if I look at these two adjacent angles that make up that 90-degree angle, right, this whole angle is 90 degrees. If I've used 60 for one side, what's left for the other? 30. And now, I can find x, right? Because I have an 86-degree angle, a 30-degree angle. What's the third angle? So I'm going to do 86 plus 30. That's 116 out of 180. What's left? How much? 54.
It's 64.
64. Sorry. Couldn't hear. It's like, I don't feel like that's right. 64 degrees. So my question mark here is 64 degrees. All right, where do you want to start on this triangle?
35 and 23.
35 and 23, so the bottom triangle. If I do 35 plus 23, that's 58 degrees. If I take that away from 180, how many degrees are left for this top angle of the bottom triangle?
72.
How much?
72.
180 minus 58?
22 degrees.
How much?
22.
122?
Yeah.
122 plus 58 make 180. All right, then what?
The vertical angle.
I have vertical angles. You can't ever forget about those things. I told you when I taught you vertical angles weeks and weeks and weeks ago, we'd be using vertical angles all year long. Vertical angles all year, linear pairs all year. Okay? So vertical angles, remember, are congruent or equal, measured. So if one side's 122, the other side's 122. And now I can do the top triangle, right? I've got 27 degrees and 122 degrees. I can add those two together to get 149. How many degrees left for my question mark? How much? 30, what? 31 degrees. All right, the next one doesn't say to find x, it says to find the question mark. Any ideas what I should do in this one?
Add them all.
Add what?
Make an equation to add them all together to equal 180.
Make an equation to add them all together to equal 180. So I can say the three angles, my 55 plus the 54 plus the x plus 74. If I add those three angles together, I should get 180. Okay, so 55 plus 54 plus x plus 74, angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, equals 180. You can put them in any order because addition is commutative. The order doesn't matter. What should I do to solve this one? Combine like terms. I only have the one x one x variable. 55 plus 54 plus 74.
183.
183. Okay. And then what would I do? Subtraction, property of equality. And x is going to equal.
-3.
And sometimes I go, oh, wait, I got a negative. Is that okay? When I put it in, I have to get a positive result for an angle. -3 plus 74 is what? 71. And then if you want, you can just check. Do 55 plus 54 plus 71 add up to 180. And yes, they do. Okay? So x equals -3. Okay? Another way you could have done that is you could have done it like we were looking for a question mark. We could have added these two together, taken it away from 180 and said, oh, this angle has to be 71 degrees, and then just set the x plus 74 equal to 71. That would have worked as well. Okay? All right, the last one, we can't really do that, the second method I just talked about on this one because we only know one angle, right? So in this one, we really do have to add them three angles together to say they equal 180. So I have to do the 84 degrees plus the x plus 59 degrees plus the x plus 51 degrees. And I know those three angles, when I add them together, are going to make 180 degrees. How many x's do I have? 2. What are my constants? 84 plus 59 plus 51. 1 what? 194 equals 180. Then what do I do? Subtract the 194 from both sides. Subtraction property of equality. So 2x equals -14. Then what?
Divide by 2.
Yeah, division property of equality. X equals?
-7.
-7. which, makes me a little nervous if I get a negative. But if I put a negative 7 over here and add it to 59, that'll be a positive angle. And if I put a negative 7 over here and add it to 51, I'll get a positive angle. But if I put negative 7 in the CMS digital activity, the worksheet for today, I'm going to get the problem wrong. Why? It says find the measure of angle A. Did I find angle A? No, I just found x, right? So I have to take that x plus 51. The measure of angle A is x plus 51. So the measure of angle A equals negative 7 plus 51, which is how much? 44. That's my correct answer. So make sure when you're doing your assignment for today, you're paying attention. Does it want the value for the question mark or the x? Or is it asking me for the whole answer? Okay? Any questions? All right.